How's it going, guys? My name's James, and welcome to the first episode of Just Gonna Craft It. Today's episode is gonna be a two-part episode, and I'm gonna show you how to turn an old computer screen that I found at a thrift store for $15 into a small little map that can go onto my tables that I can use my computer to put maps on and stop having to draw all of these maps. Without further ado, let's see the screen I'm gonna turn into a cool little map.
So let's go ahead and get the monitor on the desk, and let's remove this base. That's as simple as removing these screws. I don't really need it anymore, so we'll just put that to the side, and let's get measurements. I got 53 centimeters across and 34.6 centimeters height. So I'm just going to take a book and I'm going to write that down real quickly because I forget everything. Next, we will go ahead and get the Proxxon hot wire cutter, and we're going to go ahead and cut some insulation foam, and that's actually going to be what is the border of all this. We're going to measure it to be about an inch, because I want the sides to stick out about an inch from the monitor. That gives me a little bit of room to draw some decorations on that I'll include later on. So I cut one, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut a second one, a third one, and then a fourth. And now I have all sides. So let's get this out of the way and get the monitor back here. Next, it is time to work on the borders. So we're going to take those strips and just see how it lines up. And we're going to come on the edges here, and we're going to put some hot glue as well as some pins for the extra support. I'd originally used PVA, but why I didn't think about it is this is going to dry slow. So I came back with some hot glue, ended up putting it on the sides and the middle, and that dried super quick, and I was able to continue with my project. And I did all the other sides, putting generous amounts of hot glue and wiping away any excess of my fingers. I swear by now my fingers have so much calluses on them, I don't even feel the heat from that hot glue. So let's get that monitor out and let's flush those longer sides. We'll make multiple strips, cuts with the box cutter here because I don't want to tear up the foam too much and hurt myself. With that done, we're going to go ahead and put some legs on it. I cut some pieces that were about 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch, and I used those as the legs to this. I want my monitor to sit a little bit above, that way the sound from it can get out as well as the heat and the cords. So those legs, I'll be able to achieve that without actually cutting into the foam. With that, now I need a leg for the monitor because the monitor will be hovering, and I want this to be as stable as possible because this is insulation foam. If this were wood, I wouldn't worry about it, but I don't have any woodworking tools, and that's not where I'm at right now with my crafting. Where I am at right now is grabbing my granny mesh as well as some extra strips. One thing that I saw in the perceivable future was my players rolling dice under this and then having to pick it up, and that would just be very inconvenient. So we're going to use the granny mesh to almost create a fence. So not too many measurements here, just kind of eyeing everything. I cut the granny mesh off screen, and I'm going to put a generous amount of hot glue on that foam, and I'm going to push that granny net in. One advice I can give you about granny netting is do not expect glue to hold it on. You need to really put materials around it that will adhere and then just kind of smash it in. If you have any advice that's not epoxy or anything that will dissolve foam, I would love to hear options. And with a quick check of stability, we're going to move on to the next part. The next is to add some borders. This will provide some visual interest as well as supports to holding that monitor in. So we're going to draw a quick diagram and put those measurements down. The top is smaller than the bottom, so they will be different, and we're just going to use right triangles. And it's mostly just measuring by eye and what looks the best. I do jump back and forth from the metric system to the American system, as people like to call it. And I think it's good to know both of them, whatever is the easiest to remember. So with those measurements, we're going to get this screen out of the way, and let's get the cutting mat back down, and let's cut those borders. We're going to use some chipboard here for that, and we're going to go ahead and cut some large squares. We need only one square for 2 corners. We're just going to cut the square and then cut it at a 45-degree angle, saving us some time. And let's speed things up. Oh, love that. And let's go ahead and mark those. This one's going to be my larger one, so we're going to get to that 4 3/4. Mark that off. Cut the square and cut those angles, and we'll jump to the 3-inch ones. Do the same thing here. Give those some cuts and move on to the right angle. With those finally cut up, we can move to the next step. At this point, I'm almost ready for the decals, so I go ahead and put these borders here and draw a line. That way I don't accidentally draw underneath the borders themselves. And I go ahead and mark them just to remember which ones I measured. And I'm going to start with a decal. Enjoy this time lapse as I start a Celtic approach and then realize that I do not want to do that because it's too technical. So I move on to floral. But I just like take this time to thank everybody who watches my videos. I just like the support and the likes and the comments. So thank you very much for watching these videos and enjoying what I do. So now that we've got some of the floral design out there, we're going to take this Green Stuff World hole punch and we're going to punch out a bunch of these leaves. Doesn't matter what color paper. We're going to paint over it later. So go back to the time lapse as I put those down. The process is very simple. I just take a bit of Mod Podge and I sprinkle these leaves on. And I don't really try to get them in place here. I actually just take a toothpick and spread them around. There's no real strategy. With everything cut and glued into place, I'm going to go ahead and cover everything in black Mod Podge. This is going to help make the foam a little bit stronger and give it a little bit of longevity. So I give a nice even coat, and I end up doing 2 coats, one of them off camera, because you don't really need to learn how to paint other than watching Karate Kid. With that covered, I can finally put the brush down, somehow win a match in Warzone, and it's off to bed. Now we have an idea of what it's going to look like on the table. It's looking good.
Hey guys, thanks for joining me in part 1 in this 2-part video. Next week we're going to make this thing a little bit more structurally strong and we're going to paint it up. Join me next time if you want to see what this thing's going to look like on the table. And always remember, if you want something cool on your table, sometimes you just got to craft it. Have a good one.